This week on Waxing the Porpoise, G-Baby and the usual suspect Steve welcome back special guest Staring Jon, whose piercing gaze has been known to make grown men weep and porpoises wax themselves in fear. This unholy trifecta has united once again for our continuation of the Daniel Craig-era Bond retrospective, this time examining the third entry, Skyfall from 2012, a film that's akin to a finely crafted martini. It's sleek, it's sophisticated, and it packs one hell of a punch. Join us as we discuss how this Bond's psychological depth and emotional complexity sets it apart from the rest. Take a quick Prometheus, Noomi,
we were so wrong,
Rapace detour, and finish off with a bad review that almost ejecto seato cuzzes G-Baby out of the seat. Tip up your cup, throw your hands up, and get ready to wax poetic. Who knows, maybe Staring Jon will even grace us with a glance, if we're lucky.
This is your ass, player.
Let's wax this clandestine porpoise.
Chase, don't do that.
You see, we working on his brow chakra. We're just in back of the crown chakra.
Alrighty, welcome back to Waxing the Porpoise. We are on episode 54 now, covering Skyfall, the second part in our Daniel Craig era Bond retrospective, where we have Staring Jon joining us to break it down. Tonight, to introduce ourselves, you have, of course, myself, Jim G. Baby.
What do you see? A bloody big ship.
And, of course, as always, the usual suspect, Steve.
England, the Empire, MI6. You're living in the ruin as well.
How's it going, my friend?
Doing good, man.
And as I alluded to previously, we have once again returning champion Staring Jon joining us this evening.
But they made me suffer and suffer and suffer until I realized it was you.
How's it going, brother man?
On top of the world. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for making time and joining us. I'm especially excited to cover this film.
Yep.
As evidenced in my deep cut sound bites I chose. Oh, before we get right into the guts, up top, we're going to, because we did our 1 year anniversary a couple episodes ago, just with the time lag when we record and such, it didn't make it into that show or the follow-up that we just had with Steve's Papasan. So I have a couple that I'm pretty excited to get into here. Also, just thanks to everyone who reached out, like on the side or like, you know, an Instagram comment or something, just, you know, giving us props. We appreciate you. We did have a couple people reach out directly to the email, so I want to read those both off real quick. First one we have is from our good friend Hydraberg, aka Nick, from A Cut Above Horror Review. He says, "What a joy it's been watching you guys wax poetic each week on films, missing persons, cryptids, and dick dogs exploits. It's been a real pleasure watching you boys bond each week and grow as a podcast. The banter between you guys is just music to my ears. Guesting on your show has been such a blast. You treated me like one of the boys, and having you both on our show has been equally as fun. We wish you guys all the best and look forward to hearing more and more from you. So keep waxing that porpoise and keep it creepy. From Hydraberg and your friends at A Cut Above Horror Review." Well, thank you very much, Hydraberg and Jacqueline and John. John's back in action.
Nice.
We appreciate you. We've had a lot of fun coming on your guys' show as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, those guys are all super cool.
Yeah, totes. Yeah, we'll probably get something going here sooner than later. There's one thing I want to say. I don't know if I'm cleared to yet, but that'll come in the coming weeks. They got a new Hydraberg's working on something on the side too, but I'm not gonna put my foot in my mouth like I want to do. A second shout out here before we get into the main event. This time is full disclosure. So this is from Bob from Straight Chilling. The subject is fucking Steve part 2.
Oh, God.
Dear fucking Steve, congratulations on a full year of dog shit movie opinions. Hopefully G-Baby's exquisite taste in cinema has rubbed off on your ignorant ass and we'll get some decent content over the next 52 weeks.
Wouldn't count
That
on it.
G baby sure has Riz. Anyways, I ran into your old pal Joe Dante last weekend in New Orleans. You know, the director of The Burbs. He was chugging hand grenades and tonguing strippers' assholes, which is pretty intense for a 76-year-old, but good for him. I told him what you thought about his movie, and he said something along the lines of, tell that scrotum scrubbing fuck to eat my shit with splintered chopsticks. His upper lip was dusted with white powder so clearly he was in goblin mode. Seems like a sweet guy. Speaking of sweet guys, I hear your father is going to be a guest on the show. He sounds like an extremely intelligent, respectable human being. Unfortunately, he passed none of that down to you. Does he know you stroll into Native American casinos and steal their gold like Chris fucking Columbus? IYKYK, if you know what
Oh, fuck you. Now you've gone too far.
if you know, no. Don't say it isn't true. I got the receipts. You better stop fucking around or else that snack commonly referred to as G-B is going to call my ass up from the miners to slay. Fuck around plus find out equals dipshit Steve. Let's go. Hashtag demon time.
He hit them all, huh?
Bobo.
He's trying to get my autism Richter scale to just go off the fucking charts.
Full pop, dude.
If there was a bingo card of everything that drives me nuts, he hit every single one of them. Oh, Robert. Somebody was into his cups of Malort, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, that was quite the soliloquy. So, yeah, thank you, Bob. Thank you, fellows at the Straight Chillin' crew. That was excellent, as per usual. Before we segue into the main event, is there anything you guys want to talk about up top or seen anything cool or intriguing, exciting?
No, nothing on my end.
No, not really, man.
All right.
Just look at you, barely held together by your pills and your drink.
Okay, cool. So we're going to get into the main event here, which is Skyfall. This was directed in 2012 by a one Samuel Mendes. This is the third entry in the Craig era Bond films. And like I said, briefly, we skipped over Quantum of Solace because I think it's just like a continuation of one. It's just like the revenge side. He's like kind of going like one track mind to avenge Vesper. I mean, in a nutshell, I think that's what it really is. It's just like if you stacked, in my opinion, if you stacked Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace together, it could be just like one long player, and that second half of Quantum of Solace is him just like out for blood. Yeah. For Vesper, because then once we get into Skyfall, they don't really mention her. That's kind of on the back burner until later films. But if you wanted to be a completionist, I say, yeah, check it out. It's not as bad as it was made out to be when it was released, and I think now too, it's got more favorable eyes on it. Like, you know, I think people were just kind of overreacting, and in light of Casino Royale being so different and new and so good, it's like the second one, the follow-up to that was destined to fall short of those kinds of expectations. What do you guys think?
Did you watch it, Steve?
I did. I couldn't not watch it just for story continuity. It would have just bugged me. I felt like I would have been missing something the whole time. But but you are correct. I don't think it really would have taken away from Skyfall at all. I didn't think it was that great. I mean, it was entertaining, but not very interesting. But to put it in between Casino Royale and Skyfall, it's like, yeah, this one is not up to the same level as the others. And thank God it wasn't 2.5 hours like the other two. It felt longer than it was, whereas these other two felt shorter than they were. So and I was surprised the Rotten Tomatoes was, I think, like 60 with the critics and 50 with the people, which after Casino Royale, which I think was in the 90s for both.
Yeah, it's high.
That's what they call a sophomore slump in sports.
Yeah. I think actually, John, what do you think?
I think the thing with Quantum of Solace, I feel like there's a lot of like kind of the side players that get set up in that for later on in the series. Yeah, you know, there's a deeper dive into Felix, right, and then his boss and that kind of whole thing. So I think it's more of a continuation, like you say, but also more more of a setup into these characters that you're going to be more in depth in future movies. It was important to it's important to watch it, I think, in the series. Skipping it, I think, would be a mistake, but
Okay, good. Well, that makes me feel better about
Fair
that.
enough. Yeah, I probably don't feel as strongly, but I think to give you a more comprehensive view of like everything, because there is stuff that ties into Spectre and then No Time to Die as well from all the films, but yeah, Quantum of Solace too. But which I think that'll be interesting to talk about in the next one when we cover Spectre.
yeah.
And I'll just not say anymore so we don't belabor the point. But
Just as a little aside, do you remember that part in Big Fish where I think it's Steve Buscemi he comes across and he's writing a poem about Spectre and he's like, "Well, what do you got so far?" And he's like, "Roses are red, violets are blue. I love Spectre."
This is why you never show a masterpiece in work.
That's a
good
cool
movie.
connection, actually, because our homeboy at the end of this, Kincaid, is homeboy's dad in
Oh, really?
Big Fish. Yep, Albert Finney.
Interesting.
Yep,
It's been a
he
long
looks a lot
time
different
since
with the
I've
big
seen
ass
it.
beard,
Oh shit, yeah.
and he is quite a bit. I mean, he's 10 years older in Skyfall from because Big Fish was like 03, I think.
Somewhere
So yeah,
around
he's
there. That
like 9
sounds
or
right.
10 years older. But yeah, he's a great. I like Albert Finney a lot. He's awesome. I want to say he was Daddy Warbucks and Annie. That's like really and he's like
Oh, shit.
bald. He's like he's still old, but he's like a lot younger than because I've only known him from like Born Identity. He's in the first one, Big Fish, and then this. But I know he was a bigger guy, like in the 60s and 70s. But yeah, I liked him as Kincaid. Welcome to Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That shit was sick. I guess so. Cutting to the chase. What'd you think of this one, Steve? Is this a yay or nay for you?
Oh yeah, definitely a yay for sure.
Booyah!
Yeah, I think
Bang!
kind of just like Casino Royale. The only criticism, if I had to find one, was I just wish there was more bad guy. You know, I feel like I don't know.
Yeah,
That's the only criticism I could come up with was I mean Javier Bardem is just such a fucking badass in everything he does, and I could have done with a little less Judi Dench if we're gonna be honest. Her character just kind of bugs me, and yeah, I wouldn't have minded more Silva.
Yeah, I think that's a fair trade. I'd take more Silva for less Dench, but I don't know. Like we're not British,
Right.
but I think that was like I think she's pretty highly regarded across the
Yeah.
pond, as it
Yeah.
were. And this was her send off, so that I think they had to throw her a little bit more kind of screen time and firm it up. But
I can
yeah, I
see
mean
that.
that's a pretty good. I mean that's pretty high praise if you're only not because I wish I would have had more of this person. But yeah, I agree. I could do with more Silva too because he's like a. I mean, Bardem's like a kind of a chameleon type dude. Like he can play like these creepy, weird characters, but in different ways. Like if you stack up, two villains such as Shiger from No Country and Silva in this, they're worlds apart. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's got that same kind of effect, like a real unique, dynamic kind of villain that's got his own thing going on. What do you think, John?
Yeah, that's it's funny you say that because part of my notes I got that. Like I got big Dark Knight vibes from in this movie. You know what I mean? From the villain, the setup, the interaction between the two as far as Bond and Thiago, right? And then Batman and the Joker and just his whole kind of demeanor, just that crazy guy going around like the super in-depth setups. It might sound crazy, but that was the vibe I got from it.
No, I
Some
didn't.
Heath Ledger Joker shit.
I didn't think of that, but hearing it now, I mean, it makes sense. And like the whole, the idea of ratcheting up, like the, what is that term? Like where you have to keep escalating, so like you have, a protagonist, the good guy in Bond being so badass. It's like at a certain point you're gonna whittle down to, okay, there's gonna be another villain, a counterpoint that's gotta ratchet up to like stand
Yep.
up to that. And I think that's a good example of like Ledger, Heath Ledger and Bale's Batman and Joker, and then Silva and Bond in this. That's a good. Those are good cognates, I guess. Cool. So I'm glad you liked this one. I was worried about maybe like this one maybe being too long, because this one is 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think, ish. I don't have it on hand.
Yeah,
but,
it was pretty close to 2.5.
okay.
But no, I mean, it didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
For me
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, this film moves pretty good, I feel like.
Pacing is really good in it. Yeah.
Just real quick, I thought it was interesting that Sam Mendes is the director of this, and he's kind of like a more like a prestige kind of director, like, and he's more known for like dramas, really. So I thought it was interesting choice in him, but I really liked his take on Bond, and like he came from out of relative obscurity, and then he directed American Beauty with old Kevin Spacey, and then he followed that up with Road to Perdition. I don't know if you guys have seen that with Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
It's
I
pretty
like
good.
that one a lot. I haven't seen it in
Nice.
forever, but I remember liking it a lot.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I didn't realize he directed that, but and he's a director producer on most of his stuff, so he's got a lot on his plate. But then he followed that up with Jarhead, Revolutionary Road with Leo DiCaprio, Away We Go, and then Skyfall, Spectre. Then he did 1917, which is pretty rad. I like that film a lot, actually.
Yeah. But he didn't do.
I know you're a fan of that one, Steve.
I do like that movie a lot. But he didn't do the newest Bond movie.
No, he did not. He did not do No Time to Die. It's actually, I don't know how. Can you comment on this? Is it pretty, or has there been instances of directors doing a back-to-back Bond? To me, it seemed kind of out of the ordinary.
Not that I know of. I didn't really follow the older ones that closely, to be fair, too. It's possible, but not that I would know.
And I think prior to this too, like most times they kind of just, it seems to me like they would plug and play a director. Like they didn't really like put, because most of it, it's like the formula is pretty simple, right? You got Bond, you need a good villain, a Bond girl, some kind of plot, and then just, let them go. That's what's going to carry the story, not so much the director. But I thought it was an interesting choice to go with someone like Sam Mendes, and then he turns out he comes back and does back-to-back. He does Skyfall and Spectre, which I'll save my thoughts on Spectre for next time. But I just thought that was interesting that they went back-to-back. So they must have had just like a lot of stock in him, and I think his directing capability comes across in Skyfall. Like this movie to me feels a little bit more serious than any other Bond film, like, or maybe on the same wavelength as Casino Royale. It's got pretty heavy tone. There's not a lot of levity, not a lot of comedic kind of points, or it doesn't lean on any of like the Roger Moore. I mean, even some of the Connery ones have kind of a goofy air to them at times, where this one's like pretty like cut to the bone, like plays it pretty straight. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they put in some of the obligatory, like, corny little jokes, the little
sure.
one-liners. But could it? I mean,
the
could
one
it
at the end where he's like, he's keen to get home when he jumps on the fucking train. Like,
exactly. What does he say when he gets out of the lake or whatever? Like, oh, I went for a dip or something. Like, okay.
yeah.
I mean, could it be as simple as this movie made $1 billion, so they're like, we're gonna bring him back?
Yeah, it just could be that too, for sure.
The end, they also, it was pretty, remember in the old days, they would tell you the next fucking Bond movie. You'd be watching the credits, right? And then it's like, James Bond will return, and then it would fucking tell you what the next Bond movie was going to be.
Oh, is that
And
right?
then
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Damn.
And some of them they do for sure.
Like he'll be back next in Octopussy.
Exactly. And then this one ends really very similar to that. So part of me kind of thinks maybe they had this plan to do this two-piece, because this is the only one that ends where it was like James Bond will return.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're letting you know, like the shit is like, this is part of the story. It ain't all there. And I think it's an in-depth story enough as far as, getting further on into the series that I could see him kind of like having some kind of agreement or some kind of drawn up plan of like, hey, I want to do this crazy shit. It's going to take 2 movies.
Yeah, like laying the groundwork of like Bond and his backstory, because this, starting with Casino Royale, this is like a, I don't know if it's a hard or a soft reboot, but it's an attempt to like kind of shake all of the previous Bonds and set him up like it's not a code name. He's an actual fucking person. His name is James.
Right. Yep.
So it's kind of, and that's kind of in the background. That's like the subtext that doesn't come right out and say it. So you have to be a real Bond geek to kind of like look behind that and see, oh, okay, this is what they're doing. But I mean, and they set it up at the end of this too, where like you have the male figure being an M, and then they set up Moneypenny and they kind of roll her in. So they're kind of, I like this film a lot because it feels, and I mean, it's pretty on the nose how they, I mean, how many times do they say, sometimes the old ways are the best ways, or like they're recalling that juxtaposition of old and new, and then they're calling back to the older films and reintroducing like, okay, here's Moneypenny, she's going to be set up as a secretary, and then there's M, the dude played by Ray Fiennes. Judi Dench is out.
That whole ending is sick because it's exactly like I don't know how much you remember old Bonds, but the fucking door, like M's door, was exactly like the door in all the old Bonds. Like Moneypenny with the desk right there, with the hat rack right in it. Like that set looked exactly like, if you go back and watch like Sean Connery or Roger Moore ones, like it looked exactly like that office when he comes in and he like throws the hat on the hat rack, you know what I mean? Shit like that in the old ones. And for my next trick.
Nice. Well, that's cool. That lends credence to that kind of idea of the old and new kind of playing around. That's one of the themes that's, I mean, it's pretty on the nose. It's not really hiding it in the subtext, but there were a couple funny parts, like just to me, to my sensibilities, that, and about revolving around Silva, just kind of like the way he kind of operates. And the one that always gets a big laugh from me is, fuck, let me find it. Where is he? When he's interrogating him on that island, that barren ass island. And then he's like talking about, Judi Dench. He's trying to like relate to him. Like, Judi Dench fucking sold you out too, whether you want to like admit to it or not. And he's like, what'd you get on your marksmanship evaluation? And then Bond's like 70. And then he comes in with,
What did you score on your marksmanship evaluation?
70.
40.
like, that part makes me fucking crack up. Just how he's just like, 40. And then he just like lays into him on like, she fucking lied to you, bro. You're not ready to face off with me. Like little thing, like his character, like, I don't know, man. To me, he's my, and I gotta say, I haven't seen all the Bond films, but out of the Craig, for sure, he's my favorite villain, like bar none. We'll get into that more, I'm sure, as we go along here. But
even in that same along that same scene, he has when they do the shooting competition, you know.
Yeah.
And like, I really like the way he kind of fucks with him when he sets it up. He's like, and just to be sporting, I'll let you go first. And then he comes up like he's sitting there like fucking lasering in, like, all right, Jesus Christ, gotta do this. And then he just like sneaks up into his ear and he's like, oh, good luck.
Yeah. And then when he shoots Severin, and he's just like, boom, like just drops her. I win. What do you have to say about that? Like, it's this little way about him is
that's what like that's kind of that Joker like what I was talking, like he just, you know what I mean, like he just he totally has that.
He does. It's definitely like toned way down, and it's like his own subtle mix of it. But he's definitely got a kooky little way about him for sure.
When he had that funny little laugh when he was like rubbing Bond's legs, and he's like, "Oh, your first time," or whatever. He's like, "What makes you think it's my first time?" And he has this little like, "Whoo."
Yeah. He's like, and then he segues very quickly too. He's like, "That didn't work." He's like, "Oh, all this physical, it's so dull, so dull." You know, like it's just his way is so awesome. Like, but yeah, I think if this came out this day and age, that would get more play. But I think back in 2012 when this was released, I think there was a little bit of hubbub, like, ooh, is Bond gay? You know, like, has he fucking sucked a dick for the Queen and
Yeah.
Country, you know, like you never know. But it wasn't like
I thought
really
it was
focused on.
I just took it as he knew that would be a clever way of like manipulating him, and it worked. I mean, he got him to take his restraints off immediately after that. You know, I thought it was more of like a psychological ploy than like.
Yeah.
I think it was for sure.
Yeah, totally. But I'm saying, like, if it came out this day and age, you would probably hear a bunch of people like, oh, fucking MGM coming in with this woke bullshit, like trying to infer, like, you know, with the gay Bud Light cans and all
give
that
him a
shit.
Bud
It's just
Light.
like, yeah, totally. So
I
thought it
remember
was-
even talking to you about it, Jim, because I remember when we had been discussing it at work, and it was I think you had said it was like your grandpa, or there was someone that was like weary about it because they heard there was some gay Bond shit.
yeah.
And I remember talking to you about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." 'Cause I don't know if we had seen it or it hadn't come out yet, or I think I had just seen it when we were talking about it. But it's like literally just that one scene, that one line. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
and
it
it's
was
totally like it's like a fake out. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I'm sure Silva probably swings both ways. Just like he's just like one of those. He's like a creature. He doesn't matter. He probably fucks dogs, women, dudes, whatever. You know, he's just like a chimera. But yeah, I thought Bond was just like, you know, he just had
Fuck out of
something.
here. Yeah, like
Yeah,
not
he
worried
just had
about it.
something
Yeah,
good to say to segue out of that. You know, or to kind of stick it in his eye.
Like Vince Vaughn in Wedding Crashers when Todd is like kissing him. He's like, "Yeah, it feels so good." just trying to placate him.
I don't know if my grandfather would ever admit to that, but I'm sure that rubbed because he's just so old school, you know, like
yeah.
Oh my God.
What?
You're from the 60s.
I'm sure in the background he's like, nah, I don't like that. But he likes Skyfall, okay. He wasn't like jumping for joy for it, which I was kind of disappointed. I was hoping he would like, because I actually around this time I showed him Django for the first time, and he loved Django. Like we had a fucking ball watching that together. So I was like, oh, he'll fucking dig Skyfall. I think he's more of an old school Bond kind of dude. I think he liked Casino Royale a lot because he likes gambling, like he liked cards and like that aspect. And it was a different film. But yeah, he wasn't super hot on Skyfall. I was kind of bummed about that because to me he's like the resident like Bond shaman, like the sage, like loves all of them and everything. But
Totally.
yeah, I think it just boiled down to like this was a little bit too new school for him. What do you guys think about the intro of this one? Like, I guess compared to, I mean, we're going to do it a bunch. When you compare it to Casino Royale, it's obviously not parkour, but I think this is a pretty solid intro set piece. What do you guys say?
My favorite. It's my favorite out of all of them.
Nice.
It's the chase down, like the importance that they put on it. Literally up and through the singing of Skyfall, like that whole aspect of like beginning to the end of that animation and that's song.
Like 18 minutes from like the beginning to the end of Adele's shit. Like that's a pretty solid chunk of shit.
It's so good. Yeah.
Nice. So I watched Quantum of Solace yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So when it started and it's another intense like chase scene, I was like, man, I really hope they don't just rely on a lot of this, because I felt like Quantum of Solace was just a lot of that with not a whole lot of substance behind it. So when it first started, I was like, okay, I really hope they don't just lean on these crazy sequences the whole movie. And then they didn't at all. So when it was over, I can look back and enjoy that opening scene quite a bit. But at the time, I was a little skeptical, like, oh, please don't just do this the entire time. But
yeah, don't try to be Fast and the fucking Furious like
right.
Solace did at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, if you break it down, I think there's only like 3, maybe you could argue 4, like big like action sequences in this one, which makes sense with Mendes being like coming from kind of like a drama heavy director. Like I feel like you can get that sense, like they're punctuated, but in between it's not like slow drama. There's still like intrigue and there's cool shit going on, but talking about like big knockdown, drag out action sequences, there's like 3 main ones, maybe 4.
Well, and
which
would
be
like the prolonged hand-to-hand combat fighting scenes, those just kind of rub me the wrong way, because it's like no chance that 2 people would be able to endure this much abuse, you know, and then they get like thrown through a window. intense
on
scenes
top
are
of a train.
yeah, it's like okay, that's fine in small doses. So, but no, I thought they did a really good job in this one.
I liked. Go ahead.
So what drives me crazy at that intro is why the fuck does he crash that bike into the fucking side rail to land on the train? That drives me insane every fucking time I watch it. Every time. It makes no sense. Dog, get off the bike, stand on top of that rail, and just jump on it. But to fucking, like, accelerate into a fucking guardrail, to flip over it, like, that's... I don't have much bad to say about this movie at all, but that aspect, it's like, that's the dumbest shit in the... Like, you're just like, why? Why?
It felt to me at the time like, because you see the other dude Patrice, he just hops off,
right?
And then I was like, Bond's like, nope, I gotta do it harder than that. Like, it just felt like a machismo like Bond move. Like, no, I'm gonna crash into this fucker going 70, and then hop on the train.
Yeah,
I wrote the note. I was like, dude,
what are you getting from that?
Yeah, I was like, okay, so Bond fucking ejecto seato cuzzes off the bridge to the train, completely unnecessary. Like, dude, that fucking end over end bike, that's cutting a poor pedestrian in half too, like right off the tracks. But yeah, that was super unnecessary.
And then I don't know if you remember the last podcast we talked about it, but there's a couple of like pretty blatant fucking commercials in this movie.
Land Rover
and the fucking
tough ass Land Rover truck, that was pretty sweet though.
The VW, like when he's on and he has the crane.
I think they're bugs.
Yeah, VW Beetles, I think. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
That's one scene I wrote down. I was like, that felt so fucking ham-handed.
It's weird because the rest of the movie, anyone that pops up doesn't feel that like obvious and just it's like she like looks into the camera. Volkswagen VW Beetles, like
I think, yeah, because M's like status report,
yeah,
and she's like, oh, the Beatles, that was like, get out of here. I also I guess mini boss, sub boss that we first encounter, Patrice.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little bit of trivia. Do you know who he is? Ola Rapace. He is the ex-husband of Noomi. We was so wrong, Rapace from Prometheus, Shaw.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I tried so hard to find that fucking soundbite. I couldn't find it anywhere.
We was so wrong.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Prometheus, Steve?
No, none of the words you just said made any sense to me.
It's a banger. It's so good.
Prometheus is dope.
Yeah. But that
one's kind of near and dear because we waited. That was like, we had talked about that for months leading up to it. Dude. And then release day, we were there to fucking watch it.
That's one of my favorite movie going experiences, was checking that out. That was fucking rad as fuck. And
on
like
the XD, it's just fucking so.
Dude, yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for watching shit in the theater, but yeah, that XD shit, like, there's been 2 films that like it's a different experience when you go. One is Prometheus. 2 is when I saw Blade Runner 2049 in theater in an XD. Dude, that was fucking so rad. Like when Gosling kind of like 3/4 through, when he's like all fucked up and he's like having like a hallucination and the fire embers are coming out and that fucking music, I felt like it put me in, like I felt like I had taken like 100 milligram edible, like, and it just hit all at once at that point. Like that was awesome. But I'll never forget too, like when Idris Elba when they fucking self-sacrifice on Prometheus, when they fucking go in, he's all hands up, dude.
Yeah.
That was so awesome. Anyway, I thought that was a fun aside. That dude used to be married to Noomi Rapace from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo fame and Prometheus fame. We was so wrong. And him coming out with that. What is that? Is that like a 50 round drum magazine for like a fucking 9 mil?
It's probably like
what
200.
Was that? Really?
Yeah.
Dude. I thought that was kind of cool. Right out of the gate, he just pops out of that car, is like,
yeah, and Bond has this little pea shooter
wall
piece
through
of
with like
shit.
Yeah. That's what I think. My one knock at the beginning of this is him getting on the excavator. I was like, dude, this
Yeah.
is so dumb. And the fact that he gets shot like in an area where I'm sure there's a lot of shit going on, and he doesn't really. It seems not to phase him too much. Getting shot in like the left shoulder area, and I guess piece of trivia. I guess this is one of 2 films where he actually gets like maimed, where he gets like shot and has to deal with it. I think the last one was Thunderball.
Wow,
I
they
looked up
really
in the
shot
trivia.
him for the movie? That's cool.
Yeah, the only time he's been actually hit by a bullet. But yeah, like the way he's like operating and like after that, all the way up until he falls off the bridge, I was like, I feel like he'd be in a lot more fucking pain right now and like fucked up from it. But I think
I
that's
love
one of
that
my
fall off the bridge though, dude. That shit is so sick.
That was pretty cool.
When
dude.
she's like there, she's like, take the shot, and it's just like all intense, and it's just like do 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 do, and it just goes silent, and you hit, even the way he falls, dude. He just they're
Dude,
battling,
he
he's
just
like
dummies straight
just,
up,
yeah,
and he falls what 900,000 feet.
the agent down. That shit was just so sick. I was like, oh.
That fall would have broken every vertebrae in his back, I feel like. And not to mention, like, put drowning and the existing gunshot. Then you have a second gunshot near the heart or belly area, the 900,000 foot drop, and probably like all your ribs collapsed. Yeah, he's going through some shit. Yeah, so from that point, I mean, it kind of sets a couple things up too, not to belabor this first still 20-minute chunk, but so like at the very beginning, he's trying to find a hard drive, and that's what is the impetus for this whole chase scene. Also, like at the Grand Bazaar, them on these motorcycles on the rooftop and then going through the bazaar itself, that was fucking super rad. Especially some of those like angles, like how like narrow those rooftops were. Like, dude, some of those stunt guys have got to I don't know how much was CGI or green screen, but any of the practical shit that looked fucking hairy, man. Like
For
keeping
sure.
it on that narrow ass track. But they implant like the idea of like doing something for the greater good and sacrifice. And so like there's another 00 agent, Ronson, who it looks like maybe he could get saved if Bond stays there and tries to stabilize, help him out. And then M's in his ear like, no, fuck it, there's no time, this hard drive's super important, fucking cut loose, fuck him, basically. And Bond's like with gritted teeth, he's like, all right, fuck it. And then he leaves him, and that guy ends up dying. And then it plays out immediately after that where it's like, you know, Moneypenny's like, I think I might have a shot, I'm not sure, I might hit Bond. M's like, fucking take the shot. She's just like ruthless. She's about like the big picture always, like the end game, like fuck all the small shit, which includes, you know, this person's life or whatever. That's a theme that kind of plays throughout this film, like with draws Silva and Bond together and how both of them deal with that. But before we move on, I just wanted to point out like that's like an important theme throughout this too. Like, you know, being able to like look at the bigger picture and you know, the idea of sacrifice and what's, you know, what's acceptable, what's not. But then from there, so yeah, Bond's in rough shape. So he's like ostensibly dead. Everyone thinks he's dead, and he kind of crawls into a bottle on some Caribbean, South American island. I don't know if they told you where he was, but or if he's still in
I thought he
Turkey.
was in Turkey.
Okay,
Because I thought one of the
it
bartenders.
looked tropical to me where he was, but
I mean, I think the only thing I'm basing that on is the subtitles. I think it said someone was like speaking Turkish, but
oh, okay. Fair enough. That makes sense. He wouldn't have like jet set from there. He just crawled off the beach and got nursed to health wherever he was. So that makes sense.
Which one of you guys? I think in our last episode, one of you guys was going on and on about how much you love the Adele song.
I dig it, man. I think it's pretty fucking rad, and I don't like Adele at all.
I didn't really.
You don't
care
like
for
it? You didn't care for it? All right, that's fine.
I mean, I would never. I don't think I would ever tell somebody like, "Oh, you've got to hear this Adele song," or "I'd really
Well,
like
I
to hear
wouldn't
that song
either,
again."
but I feel like
Yeah.
it ties with this film. I feel like
with the
it's fine.
visual, with what they did, with like the intro leading up to that, and then that song plus the visual piece that goes with it, for sure. I mean, I'm not just hopping in the car and fucking throwing on Skyfall, but you know what I mean. It's
Dump that
with,
new Adele shit.
I was trying to look up some trivia, and just like with these other Bond movies, it's 1,000 pieces of trivia that aren't
Yeah.
really interesting to most people. It's like, this was the 7th movie where they used the 1968 Aston Martin instead of the 60s, you know.
Yeah.
But I saw one that was like, when Adele recorded this song, she was pregnant, and I'm like, okay, who gives a shit? But she's saying, because I was pregnant, I was able to hit like a lower register, and I haven't been able to sing the song again. Like, neat.
I think
Yeah,
that's pretty neat.
dope.
Fuck you, man.
So any Adele concert you go to, dude, you're not catching Skyfall. That's
Sorry
a
if I
fucking
spoiled your big trivia reveal for later.
No, I didn't. That's rad. I think that's cool though, because it lends a little bit of like novelty to this film. Like it's like
for sure.
it's a one and done. You know, it's like a one of one for this.
Totally.
This you
Again, again.
fucking
Like Garth Brooks' secret lyrics.
like what are you talking? What is that? The Secret Life of Chris Gaines. Is that what you're about to get into?
What were you
Garth
saying,
Brooks?
John? Garth Brooks'
No,
secret
just
life?
that. That's the Garth Brooks. He always has the secret lyrics to his songs, dude.
Well, yeah, like
What
the
about
third
that-
verse
that-
to
that
whatever
hidden
that
third-
he only
yeah.
does
Thunder
live.
rolls.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude. You know,
it's the
something
same.
special for the people when you show up.
Okay. So yeah, Bond's rough. He's pilling it up. He's boozing. He's beach bumming, and then so tying back to that hard drive that gets lost. This is kind of like the MacGuffin in this movie is so the hard drive has it's kind of reminded me of Mission Impossible
Yep.
1, like the knock list of like the IMF agents and all that.
I was thinking the
And it's
same
all-
thing.
Nice. Yeah, so it's like full of all the like embedded NATO spies all across the globe that MI6 that the British intelligence has been tasked with housing or keeping safe, and they let it get fucking jacked. And so now we're off on like, okay, who stole it? We got to figure that out. And then they're also in the process of like decrypting it, and they're gonna start letting loose like all these names and all these people who are embedded that can get killed ostensibly. But so we start out with M getting like a fucking message, and then from these people who stole the hard drive, and then MI6 gets blown to fuck and it kills like 15 people. So she's in hot water. Like, this doesn't look good for you. And that's when we get our replacement M, played by Ray Fiennes, comes in, is like, yeah, we'd like to ask you to retire, kind of thing, like voluntary but not retirement because of this. And I mean, she's getting, he says, you've had a good run, let's call it here. And she's like, not till the job is done. So Bond sees MI6 blow up and he's like, I'm back. And he shows up, and that's another, like, I guess you could point to a little kind of funny, and it ties back to Casino Royale. I thought it was like, you've seen their relationship grow where he breaks in Casino Royale and she's all fucking like weird, and like, and then it's now Skyfall and all this shit's happened and he's just there and they're talking, but at the end he's like, all right, I'll go home and change. She's like, oh, we sold your flat, fucking idiot. You're dead. And he's like, I'll find a hotel. He's like, well, you're bloody not well staying here.
Yeah.
That was a fun little.
Well, even the beginning of that conversation, she did kind of like what you're talking to, because as soon as she sees him, she's like, where the hell have you been? And
like she was expecting it, not like
right.
pissed that he broke into her flat.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So Bond's back, and then he goes through like this battery of tests, like for fitness, and he's not the same Bond. Like, I thought that was cool. Like, they actually kind of humanized him and showed him. It's like, it's not like this automatic invincible fucking, like, he's like shaking when he's trying to like aim for his marksmanship shit, and he's way off. Like, he looks like dog shit. Even when he's doing like the pull-ups and Tanner's like, hey, we can do this later. And he's like, yeah, why don't we do that? And he waits till they all leave and he fucking breaks down like, oh, fuck. You know, like he is not in good shape, which I thought that was kind of cool adding that. Like you're seeing him vulnerable again. Like he's not like a superhero.
Yeah. I thought it was weird too, though, because we have zero of these discussions in Casino Royale or Quantum of Solace. Quantum of Solace to me takes place right after Casino Royale. We already talked about that. This movie doesn't seem like it's too far removed from that storyline. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just wrong in that aspect. But once they go through this, they really kind of harbor on. It's like the focus in this movie to me kind of comes around of like pushing old people out. M, get the fuck out. Like Bond, get the fuck out. You're old. And it's like, how did he go from this 00 agent? Like we literally, he gets his 00 status in Casino Royale. And now we're in Skyfall and he's this fucking decrepit old man who we got to push out. Like,
I mean,
that never really sat right with me.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it a 1-for-1, Royale is 06 and Skyfall is 2012. So it's 6 years, but you know, maybe they have something, maybe they massage that on the inside where it's been 10 years, you know, or
sure.
Who knows how many fucked up missions he's had in between that have just like, you know, those are hard 6 years. Those are city miles, you know, like,
right. Yeah. It's a funny point I hadn't thought about, but
yeah, that is a good point.
Yeah. I think they went out of their way to make him look fucked up. When he comes back, like his eyes are all bloodshot and he just looks like shit.
Dude. Yeah. And that just little bit of stubble, because you never see Bond like with any facial hair. So it's like, let's throw a little, you know, 5 o'clock shadow and make his eyes redder than the devil's dick for the first hour.
Yeah, the shooting thing was interesting too. Like that's not like upper body strength that goes away that quickly. Like, you know, my old man, if you went shooting with him, he's still just like the tightest little spread. It's one of those things that you just don't really unlearn.
Huh. That's interesting.
But later when they're doing the like musket shooting thing, that's got to be tough when one of the henchmen has a gun to the back of your head and you're trying to shoot.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I remembered it too. I was like, yeah, that must be hard. And at first he's like maybe 5 feet away.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's not so bad. But then, yeah, like right when he's like, okay, I'm really going to shoot now, he closes that distance and it's like it's touching his fucking ear. I'm like, yeah, that's got to be rough, dude.
Yeah,
trying
like,
to fucking
back up, dude. I'm going to shoot. Back up.
Can you at least give me half an inch? Like not touching my skin? Yeah, that's got to be like, fuck.
I was going to ask you specifically about that gun, Steve, because it seems like he really has to hit the fucking
to like chamber it, like
that like when he cocks it,
and
it's like the way he does it, it looks like he's just like it was just the fucking hardest thing in the world. I don't know. I'm not a gun guy, so I really couldn't. But it has the musket, loads it, and I don't know. It just looked weird to me. Like there was a lot of tension on that fucking.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really pay that much attention to that part of the scene, but I know some of those old guns, like the cowboy guns, like the one that Alec Baldwin used when he murdered that woman. They have different hammer settings where you can go halfway back. So a single action revolver like that. Not saying that's what this was because it looked a lot older, but you have to pull the trigger for it to pull the hammer back and lock it, and then you pull it again to shoot. Whereas most modern revolvers, you pull the trigger once and it does both actions. That's why they call it a double action. I think they have some of those old revolvers, you could pull the hammer like halfway back and then all the way back. So it could have been that where he was like pulling it back, one click, the second pull all the way back. And it reduces the amount of trigger pressure you have to put on it. If I had to guess, that would be my guess.
Yeah, that's fucking interesting, man. That's fucking interesting.
So yeah, I like the way it kind of humanizes him and makes him like, you know, not this indomitable thing. Like he's kind of like he's got to claw his way back up. It's going to be a struggle from here on out. But I mean, there's a point where he turns it on. You know, it's like it is a Bond film at the end of the day. But Another one of my favorite, and it kind of like teases like, oh, there's something going on with Bond on like a psychological level. So like once they get through like the battery of tests, they finish him off with like a psychological evaluation with this fucking head shrinker, and they go through the word association. And I loved this in the trailer, like when they started out with it. This is like one of the parts of the trailer I was like, ooh, I was like, what the fuck, Skyfall?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this is gonna be fucking dope. Like
Murder. Employment. Country. England. Skyfall. Skyfall.
Done.
that brings me back. It'd be like goosebumps. I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
like the little like
Oh, dude, it's so sick. It's so sick.
yeah. So I like how that they so this is like getting back to that like hard soft reboot, whatever you want to call it, like getting back to his like origin story. Even though this isn't an origin story, it's hinting at that. And obviously like later on it's the name of the fucking movie, you know, so we're gonna get there. But that's the I like the final set piece, like where they show you, okay, this is where he grew up and he was an orphan, raised pretty much basically by this old fucking Scottish Highlander dude named Kincaid. But yeah, I like that it kind of teases like, oh, what's going on there? And then it's like, okay, we find the dude Patrice who you're fucking chasing. And this is one of my, I really love this fucking scene in the whole Shanghai and Macau set piece, like that part.
Yep.
This part's fucking super dope. I really like the music too, like when they show him like dressed up at the Shanghai airport, and he's got the fucking like the driver hat and the glasses, that whole like kind of like synthy like electronica shit, and he's following him. But one thing I was thinking, I was like, dude, like just from a logistical standpoint, I was like, that's gotta be so fucking hard to track. I mean, they called this dude Patrice a ghost, you know, like they only know his first name, no known country of origin. He's like, you know, like an Uber spy, just like Bond. And like trying to track someone from an international airport like Shanghai to where he's going to his next job and following this guy, maintaining distance, like all that. I was like, dude, that must be so fucking hard in a city that huge. Cause they really like the cinematography in this is pretty rad too. Like, like showing Shanghai specifically was like kind of overwhelming in some spots. But yeah, I just thought that was like, dude, that must be so hard. Like if you were like analyzing this from like a realistic point of view, like how you would track a person who's a quote unquote ghost to his next job in the one of the biggest international fucking cities in the world. Like that's wild. Oh, quick aside too, we talked about it. I can't remember what film. Roger Deakins was this director of photography, the cinematographer on this film. He did Blade Runner 2049. We rattled off a ton of shit. He did Shawshank. He was the guy. Sam Mendes brought him on specifically, so that's why this film I think especially looks like especially pretty, like really fucking like one of the most like awesome to look at Bond films. He's the guy in this one. So yeah, then it takes us to this fucking, I don't know, 185 story high rise in Shanghai. And what do you guys think about the fucking jump onto the fucking?
Never seen the
That
elevator
gets
like
hammered
that in my
pretty
life.
hard.
No, it's like it had to be perfectly designed this way so someone could do that, could jump on and then come out like another side and hop out and trail someone. It was like tailor made for that.
Yeah.
Which,
when you get up to the 60 whatever floor, then what?
yeah. And I was thinking, I was like, I always forget. I was like, how does he negotiate this part once you get there? And it's like, oh, it just so happens to be like this open air fucking super modern design elevator. Oh, okay. Perfect. That worked out.
Convenient ledge right there, obviously.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a build, like something being, I thought it wasn't done yet.
Oh, really?
I thought it was like under construction or something.
Oh,
But I just
didn't.
Being oblivious, possibly.
I took it as just like some like super modern
shit.
fucking
Artsy
like,
fartsy.
yeah, like, but yeah, dude, he hangs on for this is another problem I have with some movies. Like if you're going for like true realism,
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you, I don't know if this is a good analogy, but have you guys ever gone on like an inner tube, like on the back of a boat
Oh yeah.
or something like that, where you're being pulled and there's like that level of resistance? Have you ever fallen off a tube and had just one arm dangling and tried to like hold on, like getting bucked off of like a inner tube and a boat's pulling you?
I'm familiar. I never had it like specifically, but for sure, you know, because I think just instinctively you just let go. But like
Yeah.
I know what action you're referring to, like that feeling of like,
Yeah.
yeah,
That tension. I remember
Mhm.
one time specifically, like I got bucked off 100 times, like going on my uncle's boat. I remember one time I got bucked off and like I tried to like hold on with one arm and it fucking like pulled my arm out of the socket and like
Yeah.
rope burned my fucking hand. Like if I felt like if someone would have like forced my hand, like to just stay, it would have just ripped my fucking arm off. Like I feel like that would happen in this scenario, like how fast the thing was going, and you're going up like 70 stories. Like I feel like there's no way he's able to hold on. Like I don't know.
Or I don't
This
know
is
if-
a Bond film, so I don't want to like harp on it too much, but it's like, dude, that's so insane.
I don't know if,
Oh,
you-
yeah.
if either one of you have seen this. John, you might have seen this in Vegas. I feel like that's where I've seen it the most. These like street, not vendors or performers, but they have like a pull-up bar, and the challenge is you pay $10 or $20, and if you can hang on to this bar for 100 seconds, they'll give you $100, and no one can do it. I think it's because the bar spins, and so it's hard to like get a really good grip on it, and you're not allowed to pull up, or I don't think you could even do like an alternating grip like that.
You just got to stay stuck on it.
Yeah, it's like a carnival scam where if you can hang from this for 100 seconds, because it's such a long time that most people don't realize. But
dude, I bet 15 seconds in you're just gassed,
dead. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because it seems to attract like really strong people, but
Sure.
but the really strong people are also really dense, and so it's hard. You know, you would think like a really spindly guy would probably be the best, who can just hang there like no problem.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen a ton of just like jacked bros try it, and they're just like shaking almost immediately. It's tough, but
Unrealized idea. Unrealized.
All right. So besides my gripe with that, like that's fucking so hardcore. But I really like this scene, especially this gun, this square ass fucking rifle that's like this modular thing in a suitcase. I thought it just looked super rad. It's like one of my favorite. It reminds me, there's a German sniper rifle called a WA 2000 or WA 2000. If you've never seen that one, check it out. It was on like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I think back in like the 2010s. It was one of those sniper rifles. It's just really weird fucking square modular kind of probably German design. I really like that fucking gun, and the way like when he snipes that person across the way, the blood mist. Did you notice that when it comes when he pops that dude right in the head, and then it's this big room just full of, it's like all glass building basically with like a metal skeleton, and it's at night and there's neon and shit, so Bond's able to kind of like move through the shadows. But then there's the moment when Patrice, like, you know, he's got all his shit set up, he kills his target, and then he gets a flash of Bond. I really like this tight quarters hand to hand kind of scene because it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's pretty badass actually. Like
It's super badass.
When I watched it, I had to rewind it like 2 or 3 times, just all the things that they're doing, and like it almost looks like Bond, like they gave him a little like that French style savate. Have you ever seen that? It's like it's a lot of kicks and like downward strikes and shin shit. It looks like he's doing some of that, like, and like he's like bouncing the gun and like hitting him in the shin, and like I loved this hand to hand scene because it didn't look like it was trying to mimic like the fast cam like Bourne shit. Like they played with like the shadows,
the flat,
dude, the high rise and all that. Yeah, I like this a lot. And then it did kind of ham it up for me when he's like, "Who are you working for?" It's like no one ever but then I was thinking, I was like, well, he's got to at least try. He's got to say something, you know. So I guess I can write it off that way. But yeah, when I was watching this time, I was like, fuck, dude, why do they always? They're never gonna say anything. They're not gonna fucking tell you.
Yeah.
And then he's just fucking 100 stories
That's
down.
Austin Powers shit.
Yeah.
Dude.
Who is number 2 working for?
And
You tell him,
remember
buddy.
Will Ferrell can't stand to be asked the same question 3 times, so he's like
Yeah.
that whole bit, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Where is this secret lair?" And he's like, "I'll never tell you. Where is it? I'll take it to the grave. Where is it?" He's like, "Damn it, 3 times." It's awesome.
I forgot about that. That's so awesome. Mufasa.
Yeah.
So then we get like this coin that takes us to our next clue. He finds it's Macau, which I thought this part was pretty fucking rad too. I like how it just kind of jumps. There's not really a lot of lull. Moneypenny drops in to give him a fucking straight razor shave, and has to drop an obligatory, old dog, new tricks, kind of with the old and the new. And then, so Bond tries to, turn in this chip. He's clearly not the dude that was contracted for this fucking hit. So the fuzz is onto him. He happens to link up with this gal named Severine, who is fucking dime. She's one of my favorite, like, I guess, side Bond. She's not a full-on Bond girl, but dude, I looked her up actually. She's a pretty crazy mix. She's like French and like Taiwanese, or she's got an exotic mix to her, but she fine.
Yeah. Very, very pretty.
But it's also, I'm kind of torn. It's like fucked up at the same time, because he finds out like she was basically child trafficked at a young age, and gets scooped up by Silva. And like when they start hinting at who's she working for, and like who's got her under wraps, and Bond saying I can help you, and she like visibly like she starts shaking like when she's smoking her cigarette and all that, and he's like, I can save you, and then he just goes and fucks her like on her boat. It felt kind of give me a little funky feeling. But before that, the Komodo dragon eating that fucking dude was pretty rad. I mean, we can't just brush over that. And that's obviously too when the gun comes into play. You had to have that come into play. Like it's custom modded to your handprint only. And that
we didn't talk about that at all, huh?
Oh yeah, we did. We got to talk about Q real quick. So
yeah,
the Q, the quartermaster, and all the other films. I'm sure you've seen, like in GoldenEye. Even he's kind of hokey, like the main source of comedic relief. And so that's another out with the old and with the new. I don't even think there was a Q in Royale or Quantum of Solace. They didn't even touch on that at all.
No.
And I like how they kind of wink at the audience too, like he's like, oh, it's not exactly Christmas, is it? He's like, what were you expecting? An exploding pen? We don't really go in for that anymore. So I thought that was kind of a cheeky wink to the audience.
Which is funny, because this is supposed to be prior to everything, but they're treating it as if it's after.
It's just for us kind of thing, like. It's a wink at the audience, like, we know you've seen all the other Bonds, even though this isn't canon, like this isn't connected to all those other ones. It still gives you a wink kind of at that, like maybe it's in this universe, that's how it was in the old days. They'd have a fucking exploding pen or a watch with a fucking laser beam on it, but I like their little interaction. Like obviously this dude's like super young, and like they're back and forth, and like the whole bloody big ship, like yeah, I like that a lot. And you can see there's kind of like a loose understanding at the end when he's like Q, and he's like, and he gives him the gun, and like he's like, all right. Their relationship grows as the series progresses. But yeah, I like this guy. His name's Ben Whishaw. He's also known as the voice of Paddington Bear. Fans? No? Okay. Paddington's rad as fuck. I'm a pad lad for sure. I'll say my excuses. I have kids, but they don't even like it. I like it more than them. I'm like, let's watch Paddington. They're like, no. I'm like, fuck you, kid. Uh, so fuck, we're an hour in. We haven't talked about Silva too much. So this is the road to Silva. So Bond's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna help you out, Severine lady, and he works his way through Macau. He gets on the boat, and then we're in some undisclosed island where we get Silva, played masterfully by Javier Bardem, who kind of breaks it down. Like, I really like the two rats anecdote about that Silva gives about, like, you know, his grandmother, and like they had an island, and I'm not going to go through that whole story, but I mean, the inference is like, okay, M is the grandmother in the story, and she's formed, you know, Silva and Bond over years and years of, you know, like getting the cream to rise to the top, and these are the two like alphas out of this crew of like spies. Like, these are the top guys, and they're trained to eat rats and not coconuts, basically. So Silva is trying to, like, I don't think he has any illusions about winning him over, but he's trying to win Bond over, like showing like, hey, she's a fucking liar. Right. She told you this and that. Like, you're not fit. Like, you know.
What is this if not betrayal? Mommy was very bad.
And that's another thing. Like, that, like, M is a stand-in as the mom for both of these characters. You can kind of both see that, you know, they look up to her. There's like I guess you could say, yeah, like this is kind of like a surrogate mom to them in some ways. And then dealing with the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, you're an expendable agent, and she's always going to be looking out for the crown, or like the, you know, the big picture. And Silva, the difference, Bond went one way and Silva went the other, because he couldn't reconcile being betrayed like that, you know?
Well, and he was already doing foul shit, right? Because that's the whole reason she gave him up. Like, he was already.
That's one thing he fails to mention too. Like, he was starting to go a little roguish, you know. So it kind of made her decision easier,
right?
So, what do you guys think of Silva as? I think we've already talked about it, but as far as Bond film villains, or villains in general go, pretty happy with this guy as a counterpoint to Bond.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's just me, but I also like him. You know, he's kind of one of those anti-hero guys where, you know, he's the villain, obviously, but you also kind of see where he's coming from. So,
yeah, totally. I think they really nail it on the head when they, not even when he pulls his fucking mouthpiece out, but like when he's talking, when he finally gets his audience with M, like face to face, like, and breaks it down. Like, I felt, you know, sympathy for his character, and he did man up at that point, you know, like he talks about, you know, they kept me in a fucking room with no air for 5 months, and, you know, they tortured me, and I suffered, and I kept your secrets. I protected you, you know, like you specifically. And then, like, him talking about breaking his molar, like, kind of like the old spy thing you hear about, like they have like a fail safe, or like an astronaut or something, like if something fucking just shit hits the fan. I always wondered, how do you crack that fucking tooth though? Like,
I don't know.
That always gives me the heebie-jeebies, like thinking about like teeth shit fucks me up. But God, that's got to be so hardcore to, like, okay, how do I break this tooth? And then I fucking snap the cyanide capsule.
I think it's a fake tooth.
Oh, okay. So it's just like a certain amount of pressure, and that's gonna pop.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the other
PSI.
thing, though. I mean, you wouldn't want that shit popping when you're fucking eating.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. It's like, dude, you're chewing into a steak, man. You got to be careful.
Oh, fuck! Guess I'm gonna die.
That's my cyanide capsule. I'll see you guys. Yeah, no hard candy, no taffy. But But yeah, like, I mean, that really humanizes him. And like when he says too, like, you know, like when he pulls that fucking mouthpiece out, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of wonky CGI, but it is horrific, you know, like I bought it, like, you know, you can see like what that, and he's like, it burns your insides. And if he says life clung to me like a disease, you know, and all this kind of stuff. I think I have the fucking soundboard. Do I?
Yeah, that there's a couple. You touched on the CGI with his face, and then the Komodo dragons too. There's a couple of like really heavy CGI where it's kind of, I don't know, takes me out a little bit, but
yeah, I thought from a pure spectacle standpoint, though, that was pretty cool. Just seeing a fucking big ass land dragon drag this fucking dude into a cave. Like, that's cool.
And I like the reactions to it, right? When he's down there and he sees, he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. That's a dragon you have in this pit here. Yeah, I don't have that fucking... what does he say? It's like, look upon your work, mother.
Yeah,
you know, like I did like that, and I do have a soft spot for Silva because it makes sense. But I mean, he also, you know, how many people did you kill in that bombing? And you know, I'm sure he's not an angel too at the end of the day. But so that's his bone to pick with M, and revolves around the whole like stealing the list and, you know, decrypting it, and like he starts releasing like, you know, 5 agents on YouTube of all places. every week or something until
the weekly upload.
Yeah. So another thing in this, no Felix Leiter. I was hoping that he would
at all. Yeah,
I was wishing he would have been in this because I like him a lot. I like that actor specifically, but that's another minor gripe I would have to say. But I mean, it is running already 2 hours and 25 minutes. So, yeah. So we talked about Shanghai. So we get in, and then that's the funny part too about Silva is like, I knew something was off when it's like, oh, it's called a radio, you know, newest thing from Q Branch. Like Bond gets out of this way too easy, you know, like he's got the cavalry comes in. And another kind of funny part that I really liked was when Silva is like doing his Zen meditation bullshit in his glass cage, and one of the guards is like, he's like stretching and shit, and the guard's like, what do? You think you're going somewhere? And then he just like smiles and zips. That part correct. And he's got that smile, just like, and even when M leaves and he puts his fucking mouthpiece back in, he's like,
and loses
and
it.
he just starts laughing, that maniacal, that weird fucking jaw, and like, I really like this guy as like a not just a villain, but just a character in general.
Sure.
But you come to find out, it's like, dude, he had the master plan. It's like he wanted to get picked up. He just played right into it, and then, you know, like maybe that's an example of young versus old. Like the young, like Q, like thinking like, oh, I wrote this program and like this and that, and he lets the devil come right in.
It fucking hardwires right in.
Yep. And then it's like, oh shit, like he hacked us. And there's other shit going on in the background, and then we get into this pretty wild, like tube station kind of montage sequence, which was I was thinking, what do you guys think in terms of like realism? Where would you stack this against Casino Royale? Like, which one feels more realistic or plausible to you out of these two films?
I would say Casino Royale for sure. This one definitely had like it's and realism as far as in like what, like the way it's shot, or like the way, like the effects. Or are you talking about like just,
if we're just
in real life, if a guy planned this, would it fucking happen?
Like in real life, like if this were to go down, what's the most like? Because even Casino Royale has its points, but out of these two, which one is more plausible? Because for me, this whole sequence, this is where Skyfall kind of jumps the shark for me in terms of like realism.
Yeah, I would say
because he times it. I mean, for the fact that he would time it perfect, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's fucking shooting him like because he didn't plan on being caught. But then, you know, he's like, oh, it's a backup plan just in case I'm just about to get up and he shows up and misses me 3 times. I can blow a hole in the ceiling and the train will be here. Like,
he's like, is that for me? He's like, no, that is like,
Yeah.
you got everything all perfect. I think this is an interesting thing about this film, though, is like I'm more easily able to be like, oh, that's cool. He's just a fucking crazy mastermind. I'm along for the ride at this point. But I was just curious. Like, I figured that would be the case. Like, because I mean, you don't have any super crazy sequences like this in Royale. Most of this at this point in the film, you're at a card table, you know. So this one definitely takes a jump in terms of, you know, like the set pieces and like the things that the mastermind has cooked up. Which maybe is a callback to maybe some older films, like how wild his fucking, just to get that close to M, to be able to fucking look her in the eye, he has to go through all this, you know? So that if you're judging it on a realism side, you know, it's pretty easy to be like, yeah, I can poke probably 30 holes in that kind of plot
for
right
me
there.
At the end of the day, it's a fucking movie that we're watching for entertainment anyways, right? So it's I definitely don't like, it's pretty rare for me to watch something and just be like, oh yep, that's fucking unrealistic, I'm not in it, I'm out. Like, I think you kind of have that conversation with yourself anytime you're sitting down to watch something. I'm about to fucking watch something for entertainment. If shit was made real, it'd be boring as fuck. You know what I mean? Like,
I thought the most interesting thing about that for me was that how serious, because I feel like Skyfall has a pretty serious tone, yet it has that megalomaniacal kind of villain plot, and he's got this super intricate plan, yet it feels like a very serious kind of thing. So I feel like they were able to juggle those two worlds pretty well, because I mean, like I said, like, and you too, like, I was able to just brush that off and just, you know, we're along for the ride on this stuff, even though that's pretty fucking far-fetched to have all that shit dialed. I've seen a lot of British people be like, oh, if you want to rely on the tube for anything, like, you're fucked immediately, like right off the bat. So like
dude, that whole interaction between him and Q during that chase is some of my favorite parts of the movie, though. Like, that shit is so good.
When he's like guiding him through the old shit.
And he's like, well, open the door. And he's like, it's locked. He's like, put your fucking back into it, pussy. And he fucking gets in, you know, and he's like, see, I told you, dude. And like just they're bickering. He's just like, why don't you bloody come down here and open it?
Yeah. And Q is like 124 pounds soaking wet, you know, like saying, put your back into it.
Yeah. I really like that. They play off each other really well, I think.
Yeah.
They have to man up.
They had that funny interaction earlier too, where he's like, you can't be shooting people in your pajamas.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hazard a guess I could do more damage in 10 minutes of my first Earl Grey than you could do in a year in the field.
Yeah.
I like their relationship as it carries on through the rest of the series. It's pretty cool to see that kind of growth. But yeah, like when he's like, what? Because I'm not old enough. He's like, because you still have spots.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the British, like, for zits and pimples and shit. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
So the next action scene is sick.
Yeah, so then we're on the third act basically. So what do you know what this Aston Martin is from? This is another callback to like old and new. I think this is from 1968. I can't remember the film though. I breezed through trivia, but it's a callback to an older film.
But yeah, it's definitely one that you recognize immediately. Like, even if you're not really like into Bond, like, you see it, it's associated with him, and it just kind of like that scene is really sick. That car reveal, because they pull in, right, and then like it starts playing the as soon as it flashes in, it's like the OG Bond jingle plays. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of really cool things that they did, and then like dude.
I
So
love that
fucking
Bond
good,
chord.
dude.
That fucking
Yeah. And then he has the fucking ejecta, the seat eject button in it. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like there's just a
Machine
lot of the
guns behind the
cool,
fucking
yeah,
the lights.
headlights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as I saw this, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of a funky, like, we're road tripping with old M here in this souped up rat ass fucking Aston Martin, and then he's like, okay, the only place he knows to go to like hide is to go old school, go like analog, go off the grid, go
Yeah.
to, so he's going to Skyfall, like this place where I don't know if it was an institution or like an orphanage or just an estate that was bequeathed from his dead parents, and then so he's raised by the what's he called, like the
Yeah. He
game.
was like the game warden, I think they
Yeah,
I
called him
think
or
they called him
something.
like gameskeeper or something,
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
like
right.
instead of groundskeeper or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was his like surrogate. Basically, he grew up with this dude played by Albert Finney Kincaid. Just a sweet old man. Like when he sees M there, he calls her Emma.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, it's lovely to see you." Like, and then he lays out. He's like, "Yeah, this is what we got. We got like a shotgun, a couple sticks of dynamite." So they have to go like totally like analog at this point against a better armed, villain, like opposition that's coming in with like a fucking chopper. But I mean, they do put that Aston Martin to good use with the fucking those machine guns. That was pretty rad. I thought one of the scenes that's super cool is after Skyfall goes up, like in flames and it's burning. One of the scenes of CGI that they use that I never would have guessed. I guess so when Silva is like walking away from Skyfall, the structure itself, and it's all on fire, looks crazy. Looked real to me. The way they shot that was they like stacked up a shit ton of like monitors or like these big like projector screens and had them projecting like fire or just like yellow, like different pixels of like yellow and orange stacked up super high, like 100 feet high in the same general shape as the building. And then they went in and post and digitally made all that shit. And I was like, dude, that's like one of the examples of like when CGI is done right, when you can't even tell that was a computer shot. Like I thought that was pretty cool the way they did that. Like set it up with all these screens and then like, cause
and it's just his silhouette, you know what I mean? Like you can't really see any feature. It's just like that dark figure against the backdrop of it. That whole shot is super sick.
Yeah, super rad. And I thought that was fucking practical. Like they burned an actual, like destroyed an actual fucking mansion out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, that's a good example of when that shit's done right. When you can't tell that they did that. But so yeah, this scene this last kind of third act is pretty punctuated with action, and it brings the final showdown between Silva and his goons. I like what they did. What did they do with like the shotgun shells? They put them like underneath the floorboards and like
it's like
tripped them to.
It's like Home Alone for adults.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, because at the first he's like, "Do you guys still have the gun room?" And he's like, "Yeah, we just sold everything off last week." And it shows all these bare like gun racks and shit, and he's just got a shotgun. And it's like, fuck.
That and Dad's old hunting rifle.
Yep. I like when he's shooting practice. He's like, "What did you say, dude? You did for a living again?"
Yeah. Because he tells him, he's like, "Remember, don't let it pull you to the left."
Yeah.
And he looks at him. He's just like, "I'll try." Yeah. He just pops it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this, I like that. What do they call that little church? Like that
Priest
secret
hole.
tunnel? Priest hole. Yeah, I thought that was cool. They had this little fucking thing that went into like a church that was, I don't know, 100 yards off or something that goes underground. And I guess we don't have to spin our wheels talking like Bond he goes underwater and there's like he fights his way out and he finally makes his way to Silva. And like I thought it was a cool moment between Silva and M in that point, like because he's like broken. He's like here, just kill us both, like put the bullet, like because you can tell like as much as he wants to keep running around being villain or whatever, that's not his ultimate goal. It was to come face to face with who made him that way, because when he's talking about the cyanide, it burned the insides out and shit. So he's probably just like suffering like all the time, you know, and he has to live with, you know, his head full of shit that he's had to deal with. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, like where he broke down, was like, just, you know, like put us both out of our
because he couldn't
misery.
even kill her. He couldn't do it. He gave it to her. He was like, you do it. You take care of both of us. Like he couldn't fucking finish it.
Well,
yeah, for as big and bad as he was trying to like be about it, you know, and like his ultimate goal is just to fucking kill this bitch. It's like at the end of the day, he couldn't do it himself. You know, that is a super poignant.
Well, when he first came in and saw that she'd been shot, and he just got all soft, like, who hurt you?
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I like this guy. He's got layers, you know, like it's not just like some ham-handed, like, you know,
just revenge.
Like villain
guy.
walks in. Yeah.
I love that scene when he fires at Kincaid. He like walks out. He thinks it's just her. Yeah. And he's just like, fucking stop. You just stand right the fuck there and shut the fuck up. And he's just like,
They should have never been walking with flashlights, though, to be fair, because that just...
sure. Yeah.
In this barren wasteland. Yeah, let's go jingle jangling these fucking... like, come on.
Yeah.
Might as well have a cowbell and ringing it as hard as you could wherever you were going. But yeah, it was kind of sad to see M go, but I thought it was a nice bow. I guess the best kind of bow you could put on it.
Yeah.
Like her going out and making way for the new M, but cool.
Yeah, because that was her 7th, right?
I think was her first one Goldeneye? I remember her in Goldeneye for sure. I didn't know if she was in anything before that. I don't think so.
Yeah, Goldeneye. She went Goldeneye to Skyfall.
Nice. Yeah, what was right before Goldeneye? Was that not Living Daylights, but License to Kill? 88?
Yeah. Yep.
So that was a pretty big gap. That was like 7 or 8 years between.
Because they were fucking pumping them out in the beginning. You know what I mean? It was like I was telling you, like how they have it, like he'll be back in fucking Moonraker. It was like they were pumping them out yearly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that marked another, I mean, maybe it was the time duration in between, or I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of factors, but yeah, you can tell like a really stark difference between License to Kill from 88 with Timothy Dalton and 95 to Goldeneye. Like it's a shift in like the whole vibe, the feel, the way it looks, as the same as going from, you know, the last, whatever the fuck it was, Die Another Day or The World Is Not Enough to Casino Royale. It's that same kind of like jump. So that's what I'm interested to see. Like, what's the next jump, or like what's the next Bond, like new Bond gonna look like, which I'm curious about. I was just reading this thing like about how like culture is like we're like stuck in like a plateau or something. I don't want to harp on this too much, but it made me kind of think like what's that next jump gonna look like, because we're like so technologically advanced right now. It's like will there be like something else that it seems like everything's already been done, and like the technical capabilities like that we have at our fingertips, it's kind of like hit this point to where you almost like CGI people and shit, we've almost crossed like that uncanny valley, I think they call it, where you can tell like a robot, or you can tell something that's artificial and something that's real. Like we're getting closer and closer to not being able to tell like the difference. Like, I don't know. It seems like I don't know what would come after this that would equal another jump from like 80s to 90s, but maybe that's just because we're in it right now.
Point.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, back in my day, we had real bonds.
Yeah,
not these AI fucks.
Not these Chat GPT motherfuckers.
I mean, you might see revert back to strictly analog, like, because if you imagine kids now, who think like, oh, my parents are on social media, so that's an old person thing. So
That's
not-
stupid.
yeah, I mean everything kind of works in cycles. So
Sure.
or not, or we're
Yeah.
all just gonna die. Who knows?
20 years we'll be in loincloths.
Yeah.
All right.
Just look at you, barely held together by your pills and your drink.
Drink.
I do have.
Something about the affectation of his voice too is just fucking.
He's so
I
good.
don't know.
I do have 2 cunty reviews that I'd like to share. If you guys
Yes.
are okay with that.
Hell yeah.
All right. So the first one is a guy named Avi Offer from NYC Movie Guru.
I already hate him.
Why? Because you're an anti-Semite.
No,
a-
because he's from Movie Guru.
Yeah. So he says, a bloated, tedious, uninspired, sluggish, and vapid bore that can only be enjoyed by very shallow, unctuous Philistines.
Oh
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Dude, Chris would have a field day with that one, I feel like.
my god.
So many unctuous Philistines. Yep.
Unctuous Philistines, really.
That's so arrogant. That's screw off.
Yeah.
That really gets my fucking goat.
And it's just
Unctuous.
wrong. It's just not right. It's just all the way wrong. It's just fucking dumb. Like,
Bloated, tedious, uninspired, sluggish, vapid bore that can only be
Wrong.
enjoyed by very shallow, unctuous Philistines. Damn.
Dude.
that's a good one, Steve.
Well,
Yeah,
That might be the best cunty review you've read.
I have one more that I saved. I don't think it's as good, but I hope Jim has
Let's hear it.
a fun drop. This is from Monica Castillo from Bitch Media.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Did somebody order a bitch?
No. Bitch media.
Oh,
Dot virus. Jesus. Bitch media.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I can't, man. Ah, that's
The
awesome.
review isn't as funny as her credentials, but it just says, Britain is quite diverse right now. Feel free to reflect that anytime, Mr. Bond. Says Monica Castillo from Bitch Media.
Oh, hold on. Run that one back real quick.
Bitch
What did you say,
media.
John?
What did she say? Read it one more time.
She
What is it?
says, Britain is quite diverse right now. Feel free to reflect that anytime, Mr. Bond.
Ah,
Yeah.
got it.
Yes.
I got you.
I don't know,
very
man.
confusing.
Oh, fuck.
I mean,
That was a good laugh.
Moneypenny is pretty prominent in this film.
Yeah,
She's
for
black.
sure.
Silva, Javier Bardem, he's Spanish or
Yep.
I would argue even the first guy, too. The first guy he chases
yeah,
on the fucking train.
Patrice, he's like Swedish or because he was married to Noomi Rapace. I think they're both like Swedish or Norwegian or something. What the fuck? Severine is like French and like Polynesian. Like she's a crazy exotic mix. Yeah, that's horseshit. Dude, Bitch Media, that's so fucking
Yeah,
funny.
that's
Dude.
awesome.
That was good.
Yeah, I just cried a little bit. That's awesome.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, but that first review, there's like 5 words that, yeah, like vapid, shallow. It's like,
Bloated,
you don't know what
tedious,
these words
uninspired, sluggish, vapid bore that can only be enjoyed by very shallow, unctuous Philistines.
mean. Unctuous Philip. Yeah.
Dude, that one is amazing.
Yeah.
The only way that is more perfect is if that came from Bitch Media.
I know.
Yeah,
I should've
her
saved that
review
one.
fell short of her credentials. That's definitely for sure.
I should have saved that one. Fuck.
That would have been hilarious. Yeah, so from Bitch Media, you fucking Philistines.
Throw her in the fucking ringer.
in the criminal justice system.
This is pod racing. Cool. All right. Well, that's been Skyfall. Glad you liked that one, Steve. That kind of pumped my batting average back up because I think I hit a trough there with you didn't like Basic Instinct, so that knocked me down a peg. So let's see what I'm back at. I think that fucking puts me at like an 84% approval rate. Let's see. Whoa, excuse me.
Did I listen to that episode? I thought you liked it, Steve.
Did you like Basic Instinct? I think it was a no on balance. No, I didn't like that.
I did not, but it was so long ago. I barely even remember it.
Move, children! Vámonos!
Okay, so yeah, that puts me. I was at an 86 before Basic Instinct, motherfucker. That dropped me down, but now we're back at 84.2%. Solid B.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I got a quick trivia for you, real quick.
Oh yeah, anything you got, lay it on me.
So that subway, we talked about the subway shot. So most, what I was reading with that guy, Roger Deakins and Sam Mendes, they talked about it a lot, and they wanted to shoot almost all of the movie on one camera. And, and so it's kind of crazy, but for the subway scene, they set it up over, 11 cameras set up for that. And that wasn't a miniature. That was like a set piece that was built out that they literally had like hanging from the ceiling. And then it was to come in and crash through, do everything it was supposed to do.
Drop through that pipe?
Yeah, and it ripped the fucking ceiling out. I guess it almost destroyed the set because it was built out of fucking plywood. So they were like it literally they had to go in post and manipulate it because the shit was all supposed to be brick, so it shouldn't have been like moving like this, right?
Right.
But yeah, ripped the ceiling. I guess it was like the most intense cleanup that they've had to do for a set. Because it hits the fucking back wall of the set, and I guess they were like, "Oh God, please don't." In the moment, they thought it was gonna fucking destroy the whole set.
Damn.
But then one of the cameras had blocked out part of Daniel Craig's legs, so they had to go in and digitally add him and take out the camera because it was just such an intense shot. They had to get that all set up. I thought that was because I thought for sure when I first watched it, I thought it was a miniature. I was
for sure. That seems so ridiculous to try to frame that up like at scale. Like,
yeah,
fuck that.
So I thought that was pretty impressive because that's one of the bigger. There's one of the bigger action stunts in the movie.
Yeah,
and for it to be
full scale train.
Yeah.
I also
that's
have
an interesting
radio.
point. What's that? Oh yeah, where he hits it.
Radio.
Yeah, he hits him back with that. Like, yeah, my radio's bigger.
It's this advanced technology. It's called a radio.
Dude, that's an interesting point too. You don't think about like in like the making of films, but like a cleanup aspect of something like that big and that practical. God, it must be such a nightmare to like not even just like the setup, capturing, like making sure it's all good, but then it's like the aftermath. It's like, all right, guys, go clean all that shit up. Like,
yeah,
that's gotta be such a fucking endeavor. Fuck.
I guess with it like ripping the ceiling like that, there was just like brackets and fucking debris particles fucking everywhere.
Dude, that's easy to understand like why those fucking like why movies and shit cost like 150 million when shit like that starts stacking up, like or like stuff like that you don't anticipate. It's like, yeah, we gotta go a little lean on this next one because we fucking overshot the train sequence.
Right.
Why did you just use a miniature, asshole?
Dude, that's some of the most interesting shit to me. Like when I watch movies, like going back and figuring out those shot, like stuff like that. And how they do it. Like, that Poltergeist one, when we talked about that, the house with the Poltergeist one, that shit was crazy. With like the vacuum, the miniature that was like a vacuum. Yeah. With the shot, like, dude.
In the shotgun crazy. And like how they had to frame it up. And it's like, if you fuck this up, it's like, if you don't capture it, then you gotta go back to square one. It's like, oh man. Yeah. Be like one of those prop designers, like you just like fucking missed like one little thing and it just fucks the whole thing up. Like that's gotta be a shitty feeling, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts to see like I've learned like over the years, like seeing stuff that was miniature that I didn't realize like that's a pretty viable, like even this day and age, I mean people still use miniatures, but it's pretty crazy like the level of detail that they do put into that kind of stuff. But I can only imagine like, you know, opening that up and maxing it out like on a full scale. Like with train and using plywood as a stand-in sounds fucking insane. Cool. Coolio. Do you have any more tidbits or anything else you want to go over with Skyfall? All right. So then thus far in this series, I guess since you've seen Quantum of Solace 2, where do you put, what's your top 3 right now, Steve, out of the 3 that you've seen Craig era?
That's tough. Because I just watched Skyfall today, so I might need to defer the question. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
To give it its fair consideration.
If gun to your head right now, Skyfall or Casino Royale?
I think I'd have to go Casino Royale.
Okay,
that's
fair.
But you know, I could change my mind later.
I'm the same way. Casino Royale I love Skyfall, but Casino Royale out of the whole Craig series, Casino Royale is my favorite.
Yeah,
I had a different experience with like getting into Bond, I guess, in general.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Skyfall is what did it for me, and then I went back. So I saw Skyfall actually before Casino Royale.
Oh shit!
So I saw Skyfall, and then because I was never a really big Bond guy.
Yeah.
But I always liked GoldenEye. That was like the one like foundation that I had.
For sure.
Was like a lot of people are in their 30s, you know, they have a big attachment to that, which I think is a funny segue to I'll bring in that it's this it's this dad. He's probably somewhere in our age, like mid to late 30s, early 40s maybe, and he has just dusted off his old N64 and found his old GoldenEye, and he's got a son that's probably like, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20, and he's just super excited about what's happening, and he turns on like the opening credits, and he's about to take his son to task, thinking he knows everything because he's on like Call of Duty and all that new shit.
Yeah.
Let me set this. I fucking love this shit.
Whoa, player. Whoa, player. This is your ass, player. This is your ass, player. You don't know nothing about this, player. Oh, shit! Whoa! It's been a long time. Oh, watch it. Here we go, watch it. Damn right, player. Come on, watch your ass. Woo! GoldenEye.
Woo! GoldenEye. God, I love that shit.
Dude, that's a fucking classic, dude. GoldenEye, that was the first one I fucking picked up, dude, for the N64.
Nice. Didn't they just remaster it for like next gen consoles or something, or they plan to?
No, they re-released it. It's
okay.
They didn't really touch it at all. But now you can fucking play the multiplayer online, bro.
Dude, that sounds insane.
Right?
Just going with like dual Destaves on someone, fucking just like, dude, that's awesome. Or the P90. That's my jam. This is the P90. Yeah. I saw that years ago, but yeah, that shit just gives me a good laugh every time. Just like how fucking psyched he gets about that shit.
Yeah.
Like, the bottom. Woo! This
shit hit his soul.
Ass, yeah. All right.
You have to man up.
Wrong bump.
You have any moves? I'd like to see you incorporate them.
All right. Well, that's been Skyfall, and between the three of us, this is my favorite. Damn. I don't know. Between No Time to Die, I really like that one too. I'll say Skyfall is number 1 through 3 here. That's my favorite. I don't know, just everything about it. The villain, I really dig. Just seeing Bond go from like, Bond to getting fucking knocked down a peg and having to kind of claw his way back up and kind of maneuver his way through, clawing his way up to Silva and M send off, and then kind of folding into the new Bond era with all the callbacks, and you got Moneypenny, you got all the chess pieces set up. I really liked where this left off, and I was like beyond psyched going into Spectre, and I'll save my thoughts for that until we reconvene next month, where we'll cover
that makes sense.
Spectre.
If that's what you watched first, you know what I mean? Like if that's what you saw that sniped you back into it, like for sure that would put you up there.
Yeah, I was super psyched on it, and like don't get me wrong, like I even seeing this first, like I don't know, to me it's tough to like rank them. Like this one's better. Like I think all of the Craig Bonds are good. Probably Quantum of Solace is the easy like to take out like at the bottom of your list maybe, but actually, I kind of have a hot take next week when we get into Spectre, but I think they're all good quality films. Just and like Casino Royale is great. It's one of my favorites. Like when I'm like sick or I'm like laid up or I'm like just really out of it. Casino Royale is like, for whatever reason, is like one of those comfort movies where I can put on in the background and like I know all the beats and stuff. Or if I see it's on streaming or something when I'm scrolling and I'm sick of fucking looking for something to pick, I'll throw that on, and so it's definitely something about Skyfall. It just has that little extra. It's got that X factor for me that makes me just like it so much more. But so yeah, next time, which roughly I have it slated for around May 12th, so a month from now, we'll move along to the next entry, which will be Spectre from 2015 in the Craig Arabon films. And then so next week, looking forward to the show, we're gonna have Steve's dad back on ostensibly. Nice. Did you get in touch with him about we're good to go? Sweet. Cool. So yeah, we'll have Steve's Faja on again next week to kind of continue on there. You listened to the last episode with Steve's Pops?
Yep.
You dig it?
Yeah, that was some crazy ass stories, bro.
Dude, yeah.
That suicide one with the coke knife, dog. That I was like, damn, that sounds like a TV show, dog. That's crazy.
Yeah. I didn't know what to expect going into that, but I was like, yeah, it definitely blew my socks off, like all the shit that he had been doing like post high school and like
dude,
even just like juggling like the EMT firefighter college and then going into academy and getting here you go kid, getting thrown the keys to a fucking squad car.
Dude, that was like, awesome to hear him tell that, and the way he told it, he was just like, yeah, and then sure enough, 4 days later, I come in. They say, "Hey, nobody's gonna be with you there, but go on out there."
Dude,
I was like, "Oh shit!"
It's so crazy to think like in the 70s and 80s, it's just like that's how fucking shit rolled, And it's like, it's like talk about on the job training, dude, by yourself. Ugh.
What did he say? He said the guy told him, "Don't get into anything you can't handle." Like, what did he fucking tell him?
It's like, what does that mean?
Don't get into anything you can't get out of. I'm like, thanks.
What the fuck, bro?
Great advice.
It's like I don't even know diddly poo right now, and you're telling me.
Yeah, dude. He just walks in like, all right, who am I riding with today? Nobody. Here's your keys. Don't get into something you can't get out of.
What, dude? And patrolling like such a large surface area with like lack of backup.
To hear
like
those
that,
numbers was wild, dude.
Yeah, that was kind of a shocker, even for like like how small this local area is. You would think there would be a little bit more resource behind that, but what do you say to like maybe if you get lucky, you'd have like an Oroville PD or CHP, but you never know. It's like. Could just be on your own. Fuck, on like a shootout or something. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Or dealing with just some like maniac. It's like,
dude, the PCP stories. That shit was great. I didn't really I didn't know that like meth. It's funny because you don't think about these kind of things, right? But like, yeah, meth not being around and him being this like the PCP wrangling cowboy dude was just like, and then he's like, yeah, and then meth comes along, and I'm like, oh shit, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was interesting to hear like that. Like he's been through those like timelines, like of when it's like, okay, now we're in the meth era, you know, and like we've drifted from just pure PCP. I liked all his terminology too. Like you wouldn't go on a call, you would roll. Like, we were rolling. And then what was the other one for cuffing someone? Was hook 'em up.
Yeah, hook 'em. Yeah.
It was funny to pick up like the little like the lingo, you know, that he's still got in him. That was cool. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback from that episode. Like, dude, Steve's dad's a fucking G. Like, that was super
and the
cool.
Secret Service, that cliffhanger of like, hey, by the way, next episode is Secret Service. Like, I'm pumped to hear that hear those stories for sure.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
Yeah, dude, he should write a book, man. Fuck.
And that's going to be the episode that's coming out Thursday, or
so we'll record that next week. So that will come out. That will drop April 27th.
Yep.
And our episode currently will be releasing April 20th. 420, bro.
Fucking hey, brother.
Smoke them if you got them. All right. If you want to reach out to us, let us know what you thought of Skyfall or anything else under the sun. Hate mail's welcomed. You can reach out to us, email wax@waxingtheporpoise.com. Either of our socials, Instagram is @waxingtheporpoise, Twitter is @waxingtheporp. Leave us a 5-star review or whatever you think we're worth. Keep the likes, reviews coming, helps people discover the show. Staring Jon, you have a Twitch channel. You plug that real quick.
Yeah, sure. Come on by twitch.tv kinetic_onslaught. ONSLOT.
Perfect. And you're still mainly NES?
Yep. Sundays. Today was a fucking fantastic stream.
Nice.
Today was great. Banged out. Sundays I do Sega because I didn't have a Sega growing up, so a lot of the shit is new to me. So I beat Hyperstone Heist, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Hyperstone Heist.
That's one of my
went through that.
faves.
It's a banger.
Yeah.
And then I've never beaten 2 games in one stream, so we finished up that and Shinobi 3.
Nice. That's interesting. I was a Genesis kid growing up. Like I think I had NES for like a hot minute, and I only played like the Mario. I think I left off with like Mario 3. That was a huge event because that kind of coincided with I'm sure you've seen Wizard with Fred Savage. Dude.
Yep.
That was like
Nintendo World Championships. That's all. Yeah.
Dude. Have you ever seen Wizard, Steve, with Fred Savage?
Yeah.
Dude, such a fucking fun movie. Christian Slater's in it, Beau Bridges.
He found the warp stuff.
Yeah, dude. They hyped that. Dude, the marketing for that was so on point. Like living through that at the time.
Dude.
Yeah, dude. That was my first. I was like, what? They have the power glove, and he like Lucas, the fucking badass fucking asshole. Like, dude. Yeah, I love Wizard. And yeah, Super Mario 3 will always like something about that game just always hits for me. But yeah, beyond that, I was a Sonic Genesis kid. So yeah, Hyperstone Heist was sick. Have you ever played Vector Man?
No.
Dude, you should check out Vector Man on Genesis.
Vector Man. I'll put it on the list now.
Super rad. Awesome fucking game.
Comic Zone.
Dude, that's awesome too. Super.
Just got that one.
Super rad. That one's cool because you're like, it's like literally like you're jumping like the different like scenes, like the fight scenes, you're jumping off the page and onto like another comic strip and like fight. Dude, yeah, that was definitely like way ahead of its time and super like a fun like brawler, I guess, or I don't know what you call that
platformer. Yeah. It's really wild the way Sega and Super Nintendo, at least with like certain brands like Konami.
Yeah.
So like when you think about Contra and stuff like that, Genesis would get a completely different game than the Super Nintendo. So Contra 3 Alien Wars, and then Contra Hardcore, Castlevania Bloodlines, and then Super Castlevania 4. So it was like you could between the Super and the Genesis version, it's just like a completely different game. Like Turtles is another one. Hyperstone Heist or Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy like how they had like the licensing for like the thing, but they didn't do like, you know how, I mean, PlayStation and Xbox still have their own exclusives, and then they have crossover where like it's, you know, it's free play for either. But yeah, it's like when Genesis and SNES came out, it was like there's battle lines drawn like hardcore, like this shit you can only get on here. So that's where it diverged. Like I went off down the Genesis path, and I never like I never even played Super Mario World till like way older. Like,
oh shit, that's wild. I didn't know.
So yeah, a bunch of SNES stuff was just like totally like I have no idea.
Yeah. Their ad, it does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, dude. What was another one? I remember their back and forth marketing commercials and shit were awesome. Like, yeah, Genesis always seemed like it kind of had like its fucking dick out. Like it was just like, yeah, fuck you, Nintendo. You know, like
yeah, this shit isn't for kids. Was kind of their like this is a man's game.
Oh fuck, that's good. Right
yeah,
on.
Fuck yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So check out John on his Twitch stream. Super cool. Hitting the deep cuts, the choice nugs, as it were. So are you do Genesis currently on Sundays? Are you gonna like at a certain point branch out and get to other consoles, or are you just kind of plumbing the depths on the older consoles for now?
Right now, I'm really just doing the old stuff, like just going through and doing. The plan is Tuesday, Thursdays, NES, 5:30 to 9:30, and it's literally just like I have all these games, I'm gonna play through them all. So if you want to fucking come and watch them, if you want to pick the next one, there's ways that I fucking have made to monetize the stream to like be able to make money off of it, right? And really, the concept is just you come in, you want to see a game, you donate 5 subs, you get to add a game to the fucking queue.
Nice.
So once you do that, then you look through like, oh, you have this game, like Legacy of the Wiz. That was one we talked about. Like, I have Legacy of the Wizard, and it's just like all like I just have a fat list, and so people come by and they look through that and they go, oh shit, yeah, I remember this game. I played this.
Yeah.
Oh fuck yeah, I want to see you play that. And then you can queue it up that way. Really, the idea is just the 2 demographics essentially, right? What I'm going for is younger people who have no fucking clue what it is and are seeing something new for the first time. And then older people who have that nostalgia or that memory of it. And it's like kind of trying to capture both things.
Yeah, that's right. I remember I had mentioned Legacy of the Wiz because that's one of there's a couple old NES games that are like I played them a lot and I never got past like the fucking second or third level. But I have I still have this like good memories and like fun times. And when you look at it, it's like, dude, I didn't get like 10% of the way through the fucking game. And it seems crazy. Like how, like some of the games, how hard they fucking made them for kids back then.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you need a whole game guide to fucking even try to beat this thing. So
Nintendo Power subscription or you're fucked, dude.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. But yeah, I've looked at some of the screens of Legacy of the Wiz, like back and forth, and like all the iterations you can go through. It's like a 10-year-old kid ain't gonna fucking beat this. Like, come on.
Right. It's funny because you can have like different things in your stream, and that's one of the things I have, Steve. Is fucking. It's like with channel points you can redeem things, right? And I have a book of fucking literally like Game Boy cheat codes. And the text, so like for 500 points, it's like cheat codes, and it's like you pick a number, and we'll pull it out and just read a fucking cheat code off the book.
Oh, that's so awesome. I think I think it bears telling that story real quick before we hop off here. One time, we were at work, all of us, and one of our other coworkers was strolling along, and me and John were like trading graphic novels. I think we were like, it was like Saga and like what's that other, the Manhattan one?
Oh yeah, the Ex Machina.
Yeah, we were fucking like, we were talking about that, talking shop, and we were trading them. And this other coworker fucking strolls up, and he's like, and he sees like it's graphic novels and it's comics and shit. And he's like, oh, what do we got here? Fucking cheat codes. Some fucking meathead, just like,
it was a fair question though.
Yeah, I guess, but just and I don't fault him because it's a really good memory. It's like another one of those that's branded into my fucking brain.
Yep.
Like when I think of cheat codes, I picture like the big Game Genie fucker on the top of the cartridge, and I think of Tyler's big dumb face saying cheat codes.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Well, and then you guys retorting like, no, they're actually graphic novels.
It's actually they're graphic novels.
Yeah,
you fuckhead.
Literature, dog.
Yeah, that's another good one. We'll have to save for another day. Alrighty, friends. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you when we see you, and we'll see you later.
Bye.